And I think it would be really lovely to see people.
Yatin joined us. Wow, he is from India. He was a very active member and also rewarded member of a rewarded team in Challenge Future that Andrea and I were running.
Great to having him.
Oh,
and Vesna is also here from, I know she attends us from Japan, and she submitted a very interesting homework indeed.
Wow.
Yeah, very nice to see so
Hello,
many
everyone.
nice faces. Hello, hello, welcome.
Vesna, wow.
Hi there.
Super. Good, great, interesting people. Fantastic.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see people, I have to say. It's great to see you, Yatin.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Kakšne grable? Jaz nisem ti dala nobenih grabelj.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's really a pleasure seeing you all coming in to our second of the three-part webinar session on imagining the eco-civilization. My name is Yuri Giacomelli. I'm the founder of CBA, and I'm your today's host. It's really nice seeing such a good turnout. We are actually awaiting over 50 participants to be with us today. And we are going to debate the eco-civilization with very interesting speakers this afternoon, and I cannot wait to present them to you. A couple of words to introduce this session today. As you know, GM and the Circular Business Academy is the organizer of this session, together with the Public Fund for Human Resources Development of the Republic of Slovenia. This is a part of a broader project, broader development project titled Competence Centers for Human Resources. It's a training program that is free of charge, co-financed by the European Social Fund and the Slovenian Ministry of Labor, Family, Social Affairs and Equal Opportunities. The Circular Business Academy is a platform that dedicates knowledge to enable entrepreneurs, managers, experts, investors, policymakers, and other stakeholders to embrace the circular business model innovation by creating, exchanging, and sharing specific competence, and thrive on the civilizational, on the new civilizational paradigm. Why we do that and how we do that? We basically help all these people in three ways. One is through sharing the knowledge by offering training, advisory, and mentorship Secondly, by the incubation of sustainable innovation ecosystem. And thirdly, by facilitating the financing and diverting more financing to help good circular business grow. We are today here to discuss the world after the pandemic, a very particular period in our lives. I am sure you agree that convinced us, many of us, and this is where the debate between Violeta Bulls and myself started, we have to do something more, that we have to be a little bolder to get to the new destination. And while we are aware that individuals, families, professionals, we are very motivated and at the same time quite pressed by the social change, by the need to get into a more sustainable situation as societies, as communities, as families or individuals. We perhaps spend too little energy and dedication to the understanding of where we are going. What is our desired destination? What is our really our common goal? Are we really okay with that? Do we really know altogether? Can we really imagine where this train is taking us? So by setting up this room to imagining the eco-civilization, we really wanted to facilitate this process and get offer the space to everyone among us to share our views of how we imagine where and how this final destination should look like. So it's an exercise in imagination that has a very practical outcomes. First of all, imagining our goal help us getting closer to it. It actually facilitates. It's easier to get there. Secondly, it's quite a complex journey. It's a journey across a landscape of paradigm change. It depends on many factors whether we'll get there or not. And there are many paths to take us there. It's not just one solution. It's not very elementary. There are many paths that could take us there. And there's also more than one pitfall. And by discussing where we are going, we can prevent the societies and the individuals to fall into the entrapments, and to make sure that our scenarios of the future development are smoother, more productive, and that can actually make more people get to a more balanced and happy life. The outcome of this imagination exercise are really the desired scenarios. We would like to enable participants to the design of scenarios and to use the use of scenarios, and would like to do it in the following way. First of all, we are exposing critical choices on this journey. We highlight the societal challenges from different aspects. We line them along this interesting itinerary, and we define the factors that influence the critical choices and imagine what impact they may have, how they interrelate among each other. And then we try to develop a story that we really believe in. As you know, in the first session, I invited you to share your thoughts with us in a form of a short essay at around 3,000 characters, or indicate 2 articles and explain why they should help us understand the future scenarios. Many of you have submitted your homework already, and I thank you very much for that. I really enjoyed reading your contributions, and in the next days we will come back to all of you with some suggestions about how to improve your contributions and how to publish them, how to make them how to bring them into the final form and publish them on CBA Conversations page. There are more specific instructions. I will leave this with you today. You will receive an email with all the materials that will be used during this session today, so you don't need to worry about these details, and I will appreciate if you submit your final homework by the next time. It's in a week time that we are going to meet again. This is our second session, our second part, dedicated to the designing of societies going circular. We are making a more direct link today between the eco-civilization as a broad concept that will be thoroughly introduced by Violeta Bulc. We know Violeta as a former EU Commissioner for Transport. Many of us know Violeta as entrepreneur and manager, as an advisor, as a lecturer, and as an author. Violeta will hold thorough description of a concept. So we will really understand the components of what a civilization means, and what how the eco-civilization distinguishes from where we are today. Then we are going to engage with two other very interesting speakers, both members of the CBA faculty. Christian Kreinhagen will follow. Christian is the circular economy entrepreneur, innovation strategist, and the chief of the InnoBoost cooperative. Karin Huberheim holds several titles. I can also say that she is an entrepreneur and an advisor, an expert in communication. She is also the academic program director of sustainability and responsible management at the University of Applied Sciences for banking and finance in Vienna. The next time we will discuss about the geopolitical aspects of the eco-civilization, and this is not going to be all. I'll tell you that later on. As you know, the most important house rule is to be active, to participate, to raise your hand and speak up. And this time we allowed you to use screens to show up and not to be shy. And at any time you can switch on your mic and ask a question. We would really like to see you being as active as possible. Of course, please respect that if everybody has the mics on, it could also it could also interfere with the speaker. Once again, we are expecting your homework by the next week. Please know that this webinar is being recorded, and all the materials will be available later on, including this recording. These are our three phenomenal persons whom I'm going to entrust you in a minute. Starting with Violeta Bulc. Before I do that, just my last little reminder. Christian is going to follow after Violeta, and he will invite you to go to Menti webpage, www.menti.com, and use the code that you can see on the screen, 962584. You will get this code and the web address also through the chat. This is going to take you to a room where you will be able to actively participate in a very interesting and engaging exercise about how we can connect eco-civilization to the principles of the circular economy. There will be some more instructions when we get to Karin, but I think right now that'll be more than enough. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand and interrupt me. Other than that, I will stop here and ask Violeta to take the floor and also take the screen. So Violeta, please, the floor is yours. There you go. And Violeta, not just the screen, please also switch on the mic.
Thank you very much, Yuri, for a very thorough introduction. And if you guys think I don't have butterflies in my stomach, you're wrong. It is really exciting to share something that has such a big potential and that we actually are totally in charge of. So I do hope that more and more will join to co-develop something that nobody can do it by itself. And I will today take a bit more time to explain the foundations, where this idea emerged from, and what do we understand today that could potentially be the destination, the next destination that we are walking towards to. But make sure that you challenge everything I say. So let me share the screen with you and start my introduction. So first of all, I'd like to share with you some fundamental definitions. There are two words in Ecocivilisation, and that two words that have a special meaning. So one is evolution, and if we check the definition, and I really like the Wikipedia definition, so I just took them on board. It says that evolution is the change in inherited characteristics of biological population over successive generation. Evolutionary processes give rise to the diversity at every level of biological organization, including species, individual organisms, and molecular such as DNA and proteins. So think about it. And the second element, which is equally important, is what is really the civilization? So the definition says that civilization is a society with a high level of cultural and technological development, and specifically a society that has an agriculture and a city or territorial state. So my invitation, of course, is think about it. I'm not going to go deeply now into the discussion, is this right or wrong, but I would certainly invite you to put some thoughts into it, put in the comment line your comments, or maybe just take it on board and reply to it later on, either in your daily life or get back to us and explore this with us further. So my claim is that eco-civilization is much more than just a hope, more than just a dream, and it has to do with more than just you and I. And I would dare to challenge everyone that could potentially be a ticket for our existence. So what do we say about it today? Yes, I do have a dream, and this dream did not develop just over one day or in a spur of the moment, but it did came like that one night. And the basic models just, I downloaded them from some sort of collective consciousness. So what is so different about this dream? I feel that it's actually a global movement that has no name, no leader, and really no coordinated actions. However, when in my previous capacity, I traveled around the world, I found these characteristics everywhere, in all continents, being India, United States, Australia, China, Vietnam, or Africa, Middle East, and all over Europe. So they started to challenge me. They started to tease me. So I do believe that more and more of us are feeling it. What is it? Sensing it. What is this it? acting upon our some sort of inner call. So what is it? I believe that there is the whole conditions in which we live today, that we somehow are reaching the end of the system that we kept pushing, keeps breaking and bringing more woes and troubles than benefits. Even though I would claim that our lives have been improving up to date, I do not want to go back and live in any of the previous centuries. But today I feel called upon actively engaging in the creation of the 21st and 22nd century. So I think it's time to start living slightly differently, to be more connected to the living world around us, to be in balance with the planet, with the universe, with ourselves, and of course, our fellow humans. So that's the journey I'm inviting you on. And that's the journey I'd like to explore a little bit further with you. As I said before, this idea did not just come up in a second. I started to pay attention to some very good articles on social transformation, on civilizational paradigms, on the changing elements of our consciousness, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And this is one of the models that captured my attention. I'm not going to go into details, but it already talks about individual, collective, organizational, social, and planetary consciousness, but also the global universal consciousness. So that's where I could probably find the foundation of the thoughts that later on really manifested while I was working with this group of incredible people for about a year, preparing the Global System Science Society conference in Vietnam, where we decided to call it Ecocivilisation for a Thrivable Planet. It was a completely out of the blue, very challenging topic. And it really took us a year to prepare the foundations, to really try to understand what civilizational paradigm could potentially be and what are the triggering factors that lead us into understanding it as a new momentum and possibly call it a new civilization. So, conference was very successful. It was quite a triumph. However, interesting enough, we all then kind of went our own ways and took a piece of that message with us. And I entered politics, and 5 years of this extensive political life, I constantly kept coming back to this topic. Also being inspired by my experience as a consultant. And during those 14 years, together with my colleagues, I was able to develop some sort of model that showed that there is more than just the stock exchange hype or really the intensive capital investments that drive the sustainable development. And this is the model that evolved out of it, and with many sub-models of this one, we helped many organizations to come back on track, become very successful, and somehow develop the foundation that was sustainable. And all these elements kind of kept at the back of my head also in the last couple of years, especially the one that was also very useful for me and for the group of people I worked with, and some of you are today with us here today, as I saw, that we focused on relationships. To be honest with you, whenever I had a customer, I never checked their financial condition. I never checked really the figures. I was always focusing on their relationships, the content of their relationships, the strength, the characteristics. And that's how they were able to strengthen their business, focus it, and really make it successful on a long term. So that is another element that kept coming back to me also when I was in the capacity of a commissioner. But the real shift started to happen and kind of quietly entered my consciousness and thoughts and awareness over the last few years, when I was able to see a much bigger picture beyond Slovenia, beyond Europe, and kind of sense this frustration of many people on many different levels, where they could not find a way which to manifest what we all felt inside, that the way how we are pushing our planet, the way how we are pushing our limits is just not sustainable. But we just could not see really an effective way to not to challenge the existing systems too much in order to and transform them at the same time. But the shapes are already showing its formats, and there are some very successful models helping us to understand what could potentially be the next big wave and next social and political and economical structures. Or I would rather say, how could we, human beings, planet, our consciousness cooperate better in order to ensure that the humans and other beings can really develop at its full potentials. So I feel that this time civilization or paradigm will not happen and will not emerge from a continent like it was in the past, but it will emerge from the global consciousness and encourage everyone, and not only technology, but every individual, every structure, system, to reinvent itself. So with that in mind, I feel that new civilizational paradigm has a very clear mission. Firstly, to create planet Earth as an ecozone of the entire universe. Yes, I do believe that we are the only one of this kind. There might be other conscious beings somewhere out there, but there is only one planet Earth, and there is only one human population. The way how we are and the way how we relate to each other and to the world. And secondly, I do believe that we are destined to populate the universe. So yes, that's why we're pushing this technological development so strongly. However, at the same time, I'm inviting everyone who is in charge because of technological development, please make sure that we develop it in a responsible and sustainable manner, that it is developed as a tool. I have an interesting discussion with someone on my social media who says that robots should lead and should use humans for the tasks that they don't know how to do. So it's quite possible that we're going to reach at one point some sort of society that will be based on that. But I do believe that humans are such a beautiful and incredible creatures, and we are trying to squeeze us into the robot or technology thinking, which we can deliver so much more with our complexity and our awareness and consciousness. So here I'm inviting you all to put some thoughts into it, and let's see how we can create conditions that humans can be really these beautiful, incredibly holistic beings. So that's why part of my dream is that we will lead eco-civilization to a much deeper understanding of how we are all connected and how we are all part of a common shared space, that we will develop our awareness in a much more holistic way to show that we are actually, and to understand that we are actually part of the same shared consciousness. And that we will be holistic enough to also develop structures and systems within which we organize ourselves in a forum of distributed networks, open, inclusive, that really everyone can then manifest its full potentials. And of course, to make sure that we are a committed, relationship-based society with collaboration at its heart, where really the only principle is that this collaboration never ends, so that we are constantly reinventing ourselves in order to not to break this collaboration and not to break this constant involvement. because if I'm very brutal, we've done this so often in the past with wars, with crimes, with really trying to separate us by different groups, or any other reason. Today is the color of the skin, tomorrow will be the color of the eyes, the day after will be the type of haircut that you wear. You know, you can be very creative if you want to discriminate. So this holistic approach can really eliminate the need for such a discriminations and such a perception of the society. So if I say that this will be a different one, I'm not saying that all the elements will be different, but imagine that instead of worrying about the stock exchange, we say, no, the most important thing in the society are beings, being human, plants, animals, even viruses and bacteria. And we say, we focus on beings, and then we will find a way how to educate them, how to train them, how to develop science, and if you want, art to allow these beings to flourish to the full potential. And the same applies to land. You know, what if land is in focus, not in industrial need, but the land, and we ask which industry can help in ensuring that we have a sustainable development, that we have a circular economy approach in order to give the land a chance to, on one hand, help us to live, and on the other hand, is capable of sustainable development on its own. And of course, society. Why don't we put on the top of country, for example, government organization, being slant a society? I mean, aren't we really, isn't that an essence of our awareness and the central point of and meaning of our life is us together with other beings, is land on which we live, and society around which we organize. And then, of course, the consciousness that accumulates all our knowledge, all our experiences, and creates a cross-civilizational connectivity and connection through, based on which we can all really benefit and learn from the good and bad practices, what to do and what not to do in the future. And the fifth element of such a civilization that I invite you all to think of putting into a focus are relationships. Relationships within each of these entities and relationship between these entities. And this is where we can then find economical models and education and industry and any other subject around which we can engage and improve our lives and improve the existence of other four basic entities. Are you still with me, or have you switched off already? Thanks. I know sometimes I get carried away, but I want now to show you the model.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the model that is the top model of the eco-civilization. So imagine now that our systems are organized this way. The 5 major entities, with one of them being the connector among the other 4. And Earth as an ecozone, population of the universe as 2 missions, and infinite collaboration as the way how we engage, relationship-based society, which we already described, and of course, network structures that allow anyone to join or to live based on her or his beliefs or interests. So each of these entities has its own unique path of evolution, which has never been acknowledged in the latest societies. Their own behavior, purpose, and dreams. And I've seen it with organizations. Every organization had its own behavior, purpose, and dream. It had, like, there was in the hallways and offices, there was a spirit that you could sense, a historical spirit of people, you know, who never, who worked there and have not been present at the time of the engagement, but they left the trace, and all that applies to all these basic entities as well. But at the same time, they are all very deeply related through their relationships with its properties, its projects and content. So just to show you a little glimpse of another layer, of course, each of these elements has many more dimensions, and we can keep zooming in, and that's exactly what we will be doing in the future. But let's take an example of a society where we believe that a society, I believe, and I'm inviting you into critical thinking now, that society is based on shared rules, shared vision, shared megatrends, shared infrastructure, and shared values. And that the essence of a society is collaboration. While with beings, and here I'm taking Sonia Klopczy's model on board, where the essence of beings is purpose, and we have many different dimensions, among which I would mention EP, Oikos, Aroha, Ubuntu in Ikigai, which Sonia puts nicely into her model. However, there is a strong message that comes from this space, country, if you want, which says Oshtiere, which is a really old saying, but it says so much. It says, stay young, strong, and healthy. And it's a message old more than 5,000 years, but it is so powerful because it tells that nobody is aging, really, not in spirit. It is all about how much we want to engage and how much we want to contribute. And the same applies then to other elements. I'm not going to go into details, but I just wanted to show you that it's not just 1 minute sketch, but there is much more into the modeling, and I hope we'll have an opportunity to go through that later on in some other sessions. Before I finish, I'd like to invite you into considering your engagement over some of the classical concepts that we meet in our society, and I believe they will be shifting in its character, structure, and also purpose. And these are, for example, from ego, which was needed. Let's not deny the need of human being to meet her or his own ego, but it's now invited to go into a more transformational process, which can integrate this very strong individual awareness with the collective and move from ego to eco, which means awareness of the planet, of the society, and with the same attitude that we take care of ourselves, we are now able to take care of others and the environment we live in. From breaking down and by bits and pieces, which technology so often does, especially with us humans, like technology-supported medicine does exactly that. It fractures us in thousands little pieces, and at the end, they miss the essence of life, because that's not the purpose. The purpose is integration, and that's where you can see a new value. And I'm inviting you that we move on from this need of breaking down and understanding pieces into bringing things back to the wholeness and really do the breakthrough in our thinking in that respect. Of course, competition at one point you can, if you really try hard, even justify it. But when you really put some serious thoughts into it, you see that it led to a destruction of our most profound values, which is collaboration, which is solidarity, which is trying together and helping each other, that somebody gets the solution, because we all are confident that whenever solution is developed, everybody will be able to learn about it. So everybody participates in the process. So when you are in competitive mood, you always compare yourself with somebody else, but you are not somebody else. And in the past, there was an excellent book that already prompted that, this Blue Ocean Strategy, which showed very clearly that there is no really good value creation in where you fight with others for competition, but the real value is when you have your own point of view of the world and you share that with those that in need. And the world is so diversified that we all can find our own points of view and coexist with others then in the society. And I'm not going to go into every one of them, but I hope you sense the essence of transformation that is related to eco-civilization. For example, for crematism to care, I need to mention that because it's so obvious today. Have you ever asked yourself, where is all this money all of a sudden coming from during the COVID crisis? You know, and before we couldn't get 1 billion euros for additional investments in social infrastructure. So obviously there are entities that just keep piling up value that others have created. Yeah, so is that really the solution? And I'm not talking about communism, you know, because it's so easy to dismiss something that profoundly new is emerging. It's about taking responsibility and share the value that was created together. So instead of crematism, which is an old Greek expression for piling up the value, let's move to care. Let's care about issues that are evolving. Let's care about each other. And we will see that we will find satisfaction that is by far bigger than through crematism. And you could see there are more and more of these relationships that need to be challenged and that are worth putting some serious thoughts into it. And as I said, I hope some of them we will discuss further in the past. I want to zoom even further into one of the entities, and most oftenly I get questions: where is economical model? Where is culture? Where is tourism? Where is education? Well, all these are content properties of relationships that I already described before. And I'm so happy that through these webinars, we are digging now deep into what kind of contribution these kind of relationships can bring to eco-civilization. And we already had, as Yuri mentioned, one seminar where with my dear colleague Anne Berner, we really dig deeply into the potential role of technology. And I'd just like to share with you a few of the most profound thoughts, and I would rather say open questions that we were able to identify, and we will continue to discuss them in fall when we continue with these webinars. First message is that the immense amount of data being created every day by the common use of digital devices and software by millions of citizens around the world are part of our society today. So the abundance of data, but creates many questions, and let's not overlook them. I mean, I get attacked pretty much every day when I say that 5G is not ready for the deployment. It's a profound technology, but nobody wants to even try to examine how much the society has to readjust and be aware of the changes that are happening with a new technology, especially artificial intelligence. So what's the concept of ownership of the data that all of a sudden this network will generate? Where is really the focus? What's the role of users? Do we have any rights anymore, or is just a corporate right that runs the whole world? Are we giving up on democracy? Are we ready to sacrifice freedom for more predictable social conditions? I was really inspired during the COVID crisis when Switzerland said, no, human rights and freedom is above health. And at the end, they don't have any worse results than we have. So is there ethical discourse on the fourth industrial revolution? What is really the benefit of humanity from tech development and digitalization and the use of data? Don't you think this is the question we should ask ourselves first, and then judge if we're going to take a certain row or path based on the benefits this society has, or are we going to allow that some individuals who might even not be very conscious decide about our lives and our way of living. And what is really the balance between risk and opportunity? So these are the questions I'm inviting you to put some thoughts into it, and let's discuss them. And they are not a threat to the development. It is just which path we're going to take. And I will share a very concrete example with you on this one very quickly. When cars replaced the cartridge or the horse, it was a huge step. It was a quantum leap. And at that time, the industry put freedom of movement as the essence of the personal car sector development, not safety. Today, we lose 26,000 people every year in Europe in car crashes. 126,000 are seriously injured. Imagine how many families get affected by them. Multiply by 10 at least. We spend more than 250 billion euros only on rehabilitation costs. Just because somebody decided that the movement, freedom of movement is more important than the safety, which in all other modes, safety is the core. So we have every accident is a surprise. So that's where these fundamental thoughts are coming from. And I'm inviting you, and I hope we can explore them further together. And today we're discussing also an extremely important topic, and circular economy is one of the relationships. It's one iteration, one element of the entity relationship, which has extremely important impact on being, society, and land, and how we interrelate with each other, within and among each other. And of course, one can argue that all that will have an impact on consciousness as well. So we had several discussions already on the topic of circular economy, and I'm not an expert on that, so but I am a true believer. So from a political point of view, I put a couple of elements that I believe as a politician, they need to be addressed. But I'm not going to go into that. You can take a look at this model later on and use it along with exceptional lecture that we will still hear today. For today, all I wanted to do is really give you some insights into the eco-civilization concept, and of course, invite you to stay open, because it is here. It is emerging. And as I say, the drums are calling. So let's open up, let's awaken our senses and memories, and let's free our inner truth, the capacity to learn, and just dare to go beyond. You know, somebody has to, it might as well be us. Thank you, Yuri.
Thank you, Violeta, and thank you, everybody, for your attention. I think this was really the landscape. This was really like a 20-minute voyage across the landscape of our future planet, which we all hope is going to be the same planet. But I think we traveled together, and we traveled a long way, and there's no need to re-emphasize anymore that the transformation that we are calling for is not unidimensional, is not simple. Many times when I touch upon the challenges, the systemic challenges even related to the circular transition, I am disappointed when we narrow it down to simply, technical aspects of how we manage resources.
Mm.
I fully agree that it's about resources, but I don't like the term resource efficiency, because it ignores so much more. And if we want to understand and be a part of this dynamics, of course, we have to take a broader view. And I think this was really a full landscape. And now we can go on, and we can define, as we promised at the beginning, we can define the stages, we can define the stops on our journey, we can think of what influences our journey, or the risks, the factors, and we can play around with that. As we said, today our ambition is to put the circular economy in the picture, and to understand how we can, I mean, what is the role of the circular economy in all this, right? Christian is going to have a word on that, and he's also going to invite us to think with him, right, Christian?
Yes, indeed.
So at this stage, I'm passing on to you. Please, Christian, the word is yours.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're all healthy and safe, of course, you and your families. Thank you very much, Yuri, to invite me for this. And Violetta, to share this dream, because I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I translate, I would like to a little bit dive deep on what we call the circular economy. I see it as part of the whole eco-civilization, like you're already mentioning. And there are a lot of aspects that are in common. But let's start a little bit, why do I think that the circular economy and eco-civilization is important? First of all, my purpose is a little bit big, but I would like, of course, I will make it smaller, is to aim leaving people and planet better than we found them. And that's by quite a big ambition. But I'm still positive, even I'm already working for over 10 years on the circular economy aspects, and I've learned a lot, and I've also failed a few times, and I still see people question, why is this all necessary? And during our, let's say, COVID called crisis, I talked with a lot of people, and they're also reflecting on what's their role, what do they want to achieve. We have now, through this crisis, also a little bit more time, although some people have more time. And they reflect and say, okay, what can I do about this? And it's so big, like the eco-civilization is so big, circular economy, they're all so big, but what can I actually do? And we are a corporation of innovation professionals and entrepreneurs that working with both startups, scale-ups, but also larger corporates globally, in the, let's say, transition or in the journey towards, let's say, a better world. And what we are trying, because very often they say, it's very nice what you're saying, but is this not too much tree hugging? We're in a business, we have to make money. And what we are saying is that you can create profits, what we call to be proud of. So something where you really say, we have to see what the non-financial impact is well. Let's start with what we call the circular economy. So what does that mean? And I would like to highlight, and I'm glad that Yuri also mentions, it's not about resource efficiency, it's not about recycling. No, it's about creating value together. So let's say, call it in an economy where where stakeholders, and with stakeholders, I mean people in different roles in the organization, outside the organization, that should maximize the value of the products and materials, and minimize or even avoid the depletion of let's say, natural resources in order to create positive societal. So I really want to focus here on society as well, like Violetta mentioned, and the environmental impact. So this is how I see it. I've also highlighted the word collaboration, because in these concepts, I've also learned over the past years of working companies, we cannot do this alone. We have to collaborate. We have to find relations and between people, between organizations, and we have a big inspiration or a source of inspiration, which is of course the nature with this beautiful tree, and that also learns how it could work. We can learn how we have to work together, and that's not what we did before, and what we call a linear economy, where we take something and we take from nature basically, or we take from people at the cost of something, then we make something, we create something, and it could be a product, then we use it, we buy it, we like it to buy a lot, and then at the end we say, or even not at the end, we say, okay, we just dispose it, and then it's waste. And that's and something where we should say, okay, we have to do that differently. And this is what we call the circular economy. Because we are looking at like this picture with the tree. If the tree has beautiful flowers, lose the flowers, they become seeds, and from the seeds we get again new life. So this is how we also would like to apply this or design this in companies and with companies, because business can be a force for good for this. It is not something and or we have to look at both. And if we look at how are we doing with the circular economy, and in a recent report was just published, we see that the world is now only 8.6% circular. Of course, you can argue how has this been measured, but for now, they measured and over the last 2 years, and unfortunately this even has fallen from 9.1% to 8.6%. Of course, I can be proud, but I don't want to, that's the Netherlands, but we're not talking about the Netherlands, we are talking about Europe, and globally is at 25%, and there's a clear ambition also towards 2050 to be fully circular. But what I would like to invite you, especially from your personal purpose, but also from your professional and from your business, how can we accelerate towards a circular economy? How can we accelerate towards this great dream of eco-civilization, which is not a dream, it's already there, but we have to make more steps there. So how could we do that? Accelerating and again, working together and scaling this, because we are beyond the point of having a discussion if we really have to do this. This is beyond an academic something, what is a circular or a definition or whatsoever. That's not important at all. It's important that we see our economy differently. So from a company point of view, but also from a personal point of view, it's not like, okay, economy first, profit first, money first. No, we have to see how this works in the boundaries of a society and of the environment. How does this work together as a relation? And I like very much also, it's a similar concept, like Kate Raworth has shown, where you see on one side, we should have a social foundation that should be in balance with also our ecological ceiling. So what can we absorb to make sure that we don't overuse, or what we call during the overshoot day, more planets than we really have. It's like a banking account. We cannot use more money than we have on the bank. We have to balance that. So what does it mean if you're in an organization or a business, and what I see in a business? Because very often, and again, talking with people over the last period, there are people in organizations that say, okay, through this pandemic, it's a big risk. We get panic, we have to control. And we already see this for many years. So we see the whole eco-civilization or the circular economy more from a risk point of view, or maybe from what we call an eco-efficiency point of view or a cost reduction point of view. But I would like to invite you to move to the next level and say, how can we create more circular business models, or even go beyond that and make sure that we also restore what we take and going to more generative systems. So it can be done, and has already proven. There's a lot of business out there, and of course everybody knows the calculations about 1.8 trillion in 2030. We already have a lot of concrete cases over the last 10 years. We see a lot of experiments, small experiments, startups already doing this, but also the scale-ups and corporates that making steps. For example, big corporates like IKEA, there are already 120 pilots that has been done on this concept. Same for Royal Philips or other companies like that. But the question is, how can we make the next step together? And do we also believe that business can be force for good? And to help the businesses, and not only the businesses, it's important that we stick to the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals, and that we also look, if we run a business, what will be our impact on one of those goals? And there are enough goals that are relevant. Personally, we help a lot of companies on SDG 12, so really looking at how can we improve responsible consumption. What does it mean for people, consumers, customers, but also in the production? What does it mean for your supply chain? So what could it mean for you? And a lot of those elements that I'm mentioning here was already mentioned by Violetta, but if you look at from a business or an organization perspective, let's move from our cost, risk, efficiency focused, only looking at P&Ls, our shareholders, stock exchange, short term, but let's take the environment or social perspective first, see how can we create value there? How can we create social capital? How can we make sure that we improve the biodiversity? What can we do in the non-financial sense? What can we do on this sustainable development goals I just showed you? What can we more do on the mid and long term, and not now again in this crisis panic, but also looking beyond that? What does that mean? That also means from our personal point of view, already mentioned as well, from an I and ego, only looking at transactional relations, competing, having fragmented initiatives or regional or one country initiatives. How can we move beyond that to something where we really collaborate? Look at equality, diversity, not diversity in organization, but also in teams. Otherwise, we cannot flip that coin and do this transition. How can we have a joint responsibility and think from a system approach or a holistic and integral approach? Think from community perspective, and already mentioned a global perspective. So that's what I would like to invite you. Same also from, if you look at innovation, where we very often come in with companies, people tend to start internally. What can we improve on a certain product, incremental change, incremental innovation, on a process or something like that? No, I would like to invite you, look outside your company, not only outside to what your customers want or need, but also what do your value chain partners would like to. How can you create literally an ecosystem where you connect and partner, because we don't know everything. And we could connect between organizations and business, but we can also connect between competence centers. That's why I like today, we are with Karen from Vienna, Violetta, and Yuri from different countries. We have different competences, and that works together to accelerate this. And that is also how it works to create business, creating profit, but profit to be proud of. So let's take the next step, and everything I just mentioned here, some points, but look at the right side of this and take that as a starting point as an organization. Of course, there are many steps, and we won't go through today to create a more circular business. Where I would like to start you and invite you for the dialogue, and that's because I learn every time if an organization has to start, you really have to start with yourself. It's about your personal leadership. It's not about a leadership like looking above what's happening centrally or from a government or organizational point or from a CEO level. No, it starts all with you and today. So what I would like to ask you is go to the Mentimeter. If you go to menti.com, you can do this on your device or on your laptop. And please answer these questions. So my first question would be for you to take the first step to get you thinking and also get you doing, of course. That would be the invite and call for action. What would or does the eco-civilization mean for you? I will see if people are in.
Let me
Please
just
take your time. Yeah.
Invite you to go to the chat where there's the code and the website address.
It's also here in the screen.
It's also on the screen.
Yeah. So menti.com. And then please code 962584. I see 2 people in, so expect some more people. And please just answer what's coming into your mind. We had a very inspirational speech from Violetta. So what does this mean for you? Place where we collaborate and balance and sustainable wealth-ing, harmony with nature, yes, fully agree. How can we restore our relation with nature? How can we also improve that? What else? I only see 6 people. So how many? There are 33 participants, so I expect a little bit more people before we move on. Please, I don't see the chat box now, but if there are problems, yeah, here we are. The only way ahead. Yeah. And make it also personal. Huh? What would that mean for you? So make it small. What can you do using renewable natural capital? Yeah. Sure that the future will come, right? Yeah. The ball was started around using renewable. That means harmony with nature. Wait, another, give you a chance, and then I move on. Buy what I really need. I like that. Thank you. Complete, yeah, interaction with other people, yeah. Okay, I'm moving along. So the question is, and this is after this webinar, we will share this model. It's easy for you. But what we learned, if you have this conversation, not only with yourself, but also with the people around you, it helps to make it very concrete. It helps to have this beautiful North Star of an eco-civilization and the circular economy as an trigger or enabler also to as part of that. What does that mean for you? Co-creating, I like that very much. Yeah, that's for sure we need that. I'm moving on. The next question, what could you do with your family and friends to accelerate the journey towards eco-civilization? And this is the second P, I call it private. So the first one was your personal one. The second P in the 5P model is the private. So what can I do with my family and friends to accelerate towards the eco-civilization? Please, everything is good. I cannot see who's answering this, so don't worry. Being nice. Yeah. Reusing. Reusing. Don't invest time, mother, and other resources, linear, circular instead. Focus on the essential need, being fair, care. Yeah. Conversation and debate. Yeah, I think that's very strong. We should have a dialogue. What does it mean? Because it's all personal, and it's also not like that we have to judge. Sometimes I have I have nice dialogues on this with not only family and friends, but also in companies. It's not that one thing is good that we have to judge. Every step is on itself already good. We don't have to agree there. Focus on the essential needs. Yeah. Okay, I'm being an example. I like that as well. And giving an example in what you're doing personally. So yeah, buy just what we need. Okay, I'm going on. Then the question is now, what would it mean for your professional life to accelerate the journey towards eco-civilization? So this is the third P. We had the personal, we had the private, and now I'm going to the next one, which is the professional one. So what can I do in my work? Encourage co-workers, society projects, yeah. What else? Teach. I think that's extremely important. The whole education, what does it mean? Bringing awareness, develop earthy-friendly products, motivate. Yeah, coaching people and teams, extremely important. Also challenging, try to trigger people. Yeah, share Violetta's model indeed in different workshops, because that could create, that's a very nice aspiration. So what does that mean for your work? What does it mean for your organization? Can we translate it to something? Does it trigger innovation? Like what I'm saying, and the companies we work with, we can see the whole circular economies, sustainability, but including societal aspects of it as key driver of innovation. Let's start there. So, connect with different stakeholders. I think personally that's a very important point also to start. Creating, if we talk about value very often in the companies we are visiting, we start with creating value. Very often it starts internally, but can we also start to create value and look at the different stakeholders where we do, who do we have to deal with in local societies or communities? If we have a factory somewhere else on the world or in our own country, who's working there? What does it mean for the communities around our company or factory? What do we, how do we use air, water? What's our footprint there? So very important to include all different stakeholders, although they not always present somebody. You can present also the natural environment and see how you can create value instead of destroying value. So how can we create value for everybody? Okay, I'm moving on. Thank you very much for your input. And of course, the next question would be, then you already feel it, how could I collaborate with potential partners to accelerate the journey towards eco-civilization? So take this from you could take this from your professional point of view in your organization, but you can also look at it from a different angle if that's easier for you. So do I see potential partners? For example, if you look at the value chain, if you look at you're working for a government, where do you see potential relations that you didn't see before? Is that interesting to reach out? to those organizations. Not always straightforward. Can I even collaborate with what I call, or before, competitors? What do they have? What do I see from other competences? What do I need to accelerate towards an eco-civilization? Because we don't have all the competence ourselves. We cannot do this ourselves. So I will need you. Otherwise, I can also not proceed, but even also not create a business for the mid and long term. What we learned in not only circular economy or sustainable projects, that collaboration is a key enabler to make this successful. You cannot do this alone. And the business opportunity is big enough to do this together. We don't have to compete for the biggest slice of the pie. There is enough pie. We only have to be conscious what it means and what does it mean for our role and how can we do this together. More like-minded people and leaders to create synergies. Yeah, maybe, yeah, article, research. What else? How could we collaborate? What can we do tomorrow? Can we reach out to somebody we don't know yet that could bring in something? What about where you live in the local communities? What about other partners? Educational partners? Do I already work with also universities, but also work with schools with different levels? For the circular economy, we need a lot of, it's very labor intense. What does it mean? Do we have all those competences? Or and not only looking from a knowledge point of view, we really need hands and feet and people creating something. What about the cultural side? Have we looked at cultural partners, designers, people that are really good in holistic thinking, that bring new ideas? Okay, we are moving on. Thank you very much for your input. And then the question is, in what ways our societies will be different if we have achieved eco-civilization? So I already said that we made a step because I'm optimist and positive. And if we look at the dream that was just presented, what would that mean? Less wars, yeah, peace. And what else? How would society look like if we really have less poverty? Yeah, yeah. Well-being, quality, justice, respect and understanding lead to, and what else? How do we relate to social green neighbors? It's interesting that happiness is mentioned a few times. Quality of life, yeah, for sure. Direct participation, that's an interesting one. Other ones you would like to add? Better and sincere networks, interconnections, very interesting. Yeah, how can we, how are we more interconnected? Compassion, the willingness to listen, kind, I like the word kindness. Okay, we're moving on, giving the time as well. So the last question, what would this mean for our planet, the natural environment, if we have achieved eco-civilization? What would it mean for water, air, whole use of land, restoration, biodiversity, our relation with that? How do you see that? What would it mean? Yeah. enough food. Yeah, slow down use of natural resources. Harmony, portable water, cleaner, natural, richer planet, eco zones, interesting. Clean sea, consciousness society, more correlation, greater biodiversity, yeah, less sufferings. So what will be our relation with nature? Can we actually restore? So can we have a positive impact on the natural environment? How does that work? What should change? Which steps do we have to take there? Okay, a few. Okay, thank you very much. So these are the most important things I would like to ask. And now the last question comes, very short one. Please ready for it. What would be the action you're going to take tomorrow? So we have a very big, ambitious goal and a dream, but what's the concrete action I can take tomorrow? So make it tangible and make it in a way that I can call you tomorrow and say, or after tomorrow, it's fine. What can you do to make it very concrete? Because what we learned also in working with organizations, entrepreneurs, making those steps and moving from more in risk and cost to a circular business or sustainable business or a business with a different impact, and even going to a more systematic approach, it also requires to make small steps. And we need a big ambition, a big North Star, but on the other hand, we have to make it small again. What can we do tomorrow to make it happen? And also to feel that it's really feasible and doable for yourself. Otherwise, it's the danger that's too big and that people freeze and say, okay, I cannot do anything about this. So what can I do about this? Coaching my clients on the meaning, check option to buying an electric car, share the concept of eco-civilization, take responsibility. Yeah. Okay, please go ahead, but giving the time. So the question is, and please proceed with the, if you have still answers, we will also share everything you just did. So how could we do it and make this happening in your organization or in business to make the first and the next steps in order to innovate for a more, let's say, a circular economy and towards eco-civilization? First of all, determine your North Star, determine what you would like to achieve. Then look back and say, okay, start with your 5 Ps. So where would you like to contribute? Starting with yourself, starting with your and your family, friends, professionally in your organization, and looking at all those elements, and hopefully you see that they all tie together. That would make it very strong. That would be your common values and your purposes related to your North Star. What you are going to do next, or hopefully you're going to next, is to create a roadmap with scenarios. So what does that mean for your organization or for your business or your entity? If you work for government, which steps do I take? And of course, am I showing different lines? It will be different scenarios. There's always something that's more optimal, that's going well, then we can accelerate. And of course, it's always working a little bit different. So let's plan for that. And then the important step already mentioned for you personally, what can we do tomorrow, but also in your organization, which step can we already take? in a way that we are going to experiment and learn. It's not that it doesn't matter that we are going to fail, we are going to learn together. We're going to learn what this first step is, what does it mean for our organization, what does it mean for us? And based on that, we further improve. And we learn, improve, learn, improve. And of course, you will see that the North Star will be slightly left to the right. And also your scenario might be wrong, doesn't matter. But we have thought it through and we're just exploring that. And creating all those learnings, creating that organization, business, entity together, but also society together towards eco-civilization, we can scale and we can further direct it to that direction. And this is also what I would like to encourage. So big ambition, but make it small and start tomorrow, experimenting and learning together. Thank you very much. All tools are available, and if you want or if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Christian. This was, we could term it a 5P exercise. I got a question from the chat, what actually 5Ps meant. Karin replied, so maybe we can repeat this. And please, meanwhile, everybody, prepare your questions. The time is yours. So Christian, the first question, just to repeat the 5Ps, it's
yeah. So it starts with personal. First of all, yourself. Then it's what I called private. So that's your family and friends. Then I said professional. So it could be where you're working. Then I was discussing partners. So can I find partners around me? Then we're going to add the public or society, call it, but P of public. And then we go to the planet/natural environment.
Thank you. Thank you.
There are several 5Ps around.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, but I would say start with your personal one to make it really to create a value, to find share values and one common person.
This goes in parallel, of course, not just with defining the North Star and following it, but also with the ambition that you outlined in your introductory part. Which actually broadens the understanding of the circular economy concept from balancing risks deriving from the way how we as a society or as businesses or as economies use natural resources and the consequences we create by that. Towards a more holistic perspective, all the way to designing more regenerative business models, and all the way to sharing the regenerative ecosystems, right? Which is, if we want to get there, it will not be enough just to focus on resource efficiency, on some elementary or technical aspects. We have to start from 5Ps, and we also have to reply to them all the way along. Yes. Any questions from participants? Please just speak up and don't. The only thing you have, the only technical part is to switch on your mic. Then the rest is, is up to you. I'm reading here. Could we hear and be inspired by the panelists answering the question, how would the world look like if their dream would come true? Barbara Horvatin. So this is to all panelists. Christian, it's still your time, so maybe we can you told us a little bit about it, but maybe you can start, and then we will go back to Violeta, and we will of course end with Karin in a few minutes. Please.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself, but I really share the dream of what Violeta showed. And for me, it's not important if you call it circular economy or more sustainable or healthy. I like very much, by the way, thank you, Karen, that you put the P from peace. We should add. So of course, I have already my mission is to leave people planet a little bit better than I found it. I think, yeah, I would like to be, yeah, how would the world look like? Let's say at least a little bit better than I found it before, where we have restored our relation with nature, but also society. And at least I'm working in businesses, so let's focus there. My wish would be that business really look different, that they don't start focusing on only creating money at the cost of something, but they start something else, and that they look at, okay, what would be my added value for society, or what would be my added value for the natural environment. You can make it smaller and bigger, and from there creating business, creating value. And then of course I believe in an economy and the money will flow, but let's turn it around. Start there instead of from only a financial side. So that would be for me an ideal business world.
Violeta?
Well, I mean, I've explained my dream a lot, but to go back down to the baseline, the day-to-day life, how it should look like. I think that when we reach the full scale of eco-civilization, I think we will jointly deal with the health issues that remain and really focus jointly, not in a competitive manner, but in the joint effort to eliminate as many of them as possible. Rely on the planet. We are part of the ecosystem. Ecosystem has the answers, and we can learn from the previous civilizations that many of the diseases can be dealt with and are dealt with in a holistic way, which means food is the right natural medicine, is a good healthy condition of our body, fitness of our body, mental state, emotional state, and spiritual state. So I do believe we'll be much smarter in understanding how to keep the balance of us humans, how to keep the balance between us and other beings and planet as a being as well. I'm sure that once we reach that, our technical exploration will continue in the universe, but I will do everything I can in order to raise the awareness that the foundation for exploration of the world needs to be sustainable, that it needs to be responsible and related to the values that we're discussing here today. Currently, we're not that way. I mean, we go to the universe, we drop as much garbage as we possibly can. We plan already today that we will create a garbage can out of the moon and things like that. So it's a very irresponsible behavior and driven only by technology. So eco-civilization will have this kind of awareness because we can do it either way. That's the point. We have a choice. It's not that it should be done only in one direction. I could explore further these thoughts.
Violeta, you said, I will be a little bit provocative now, and okay. I will make room for Karin's speech. You said not the world driven only by technology.
Yes.
Then you were very motivating. Of course, your landscape is a landscape where we would like to fly over and where we would like to land and where we would like to stay, right? Christian tried to lead us through different stages, to different pieces, to invite us how to do some impact tomorrow ourselves. But let me be street smart. Is it real business that good business that can lead us there? Because today you can let yourself be led by the motivation, but tomorrow there will be no resources left. Or if we are smart enough, we will impose such regulation that will actually introduce fairer pricing, and only those businesses who will be on the right side will actually be more successful. So don't you think that it's not, it's actually very benefiting for the economic aspect of any business as such, to lead, to be led by this inspiration, and be aware that staying as it is, it means actually risking a lot. And this is, of course, to Karin to reply, because we are now going from 5 Ps, and we, in effect, we actually found many more Ps that get together pretty well. Right? We are now getting from the Ps to the Cs, right? And Cs stand for capitals. And just to name, I mean, another perspective that Karin is going to take and lead us into it in order to shed some more light onto what the circular economy can do for us to get faster and surer into the eco-civilization mode. Please, Karin.
Thank you, Yuri. Thank you, Violetta. Thank you, Christian. I already put it in the chat. I'm so with you, and I would love to arrive with you together in an eco-civilized world and the planet. And I think it's so interesting. And I mean, for all of you who are still around in this discussion, you will see in my presentation, we have not spoken about this before. We have not spoken about the contents, actually. I mean, I only spoke to Yuri about what I was thinking, and I are a little bit aware of the eco-civilization concept of Violetta, and I'm happy that I got introduced to it now more thoroughly and with Christian. And it's so interesting to see how much aligned we are. And I think some of you will smile now when you see my presentation, which I'm going to share now with you, because I had to smile a couple of times, because it's actually already proving the point that Violetta made in her presentation, saying that it is around already. It is around already, and whether we are connected or not, it is already there. So let me go into this with you and see what you think about what is there. What I also spoke to Yuri about in the preparation of this was the way. But I'm thinking now, I'm assuming now that we are like-minded people here in this seminar, or in some way aligned, all of us, or at least sort of tackling the same North Star. But I'm working with companies a lot out there who are not aligned at all. So what I have been trying to do is to find a language or to find a narrative that even those who are still thinking about efficiencies, business plans, doing business as usual, infinite growth and all of that, all that old story, to give them a narrative that they can understand, and so that they will understand what Yuri just called the risk of ignoring the ROI in a different way. So I'd be very curious to hear what you think about this later in the discussion, if this narrative works. This is where we are at. Next, let me see, where can I move my slides? All right, here we are. So economy. I did not know Nancy Bocken before, the person Christian referred to, but this is a model that I have been using for the past decades of teaching my students, because I think it very well illustrates how environmental and societal changes can have great influence on companies and on economy, because basically economy thinks the world is circling around business. The world is driven by business. We are all lost without economy. We all need to save economy for the sake of us. So this is a narrative that we like to hear, or that we hear a lot from politicians, that we hear, that we can see in the media. But what we could see during the crisis now is that, and this has also been mentioned before, so if we only buy what we need, economy is crashing. So what does this tell us about economy, and what does this make us in the economy? And us is society. This is what I mean is happening around economy, and this is where economy is sourcing from. This is where the employees are and come from. This is where consumers come from, and this is actually what economy is working for, because this is partly, at least, their market. So solutions for society should be marketable, and this is what a lot of businesses actually claim to do. As we can see now, this may not be the full story. But definitely, if change in society is happening, something is happening to the economy. Whether this is driven by different customer requirements, or a scarcity of resources, or the agility of markets, or regulation changes, or new technologies, or now even a pandemic. This really affects economy very harshly. And in this extent, I think that the COVID crisis was a really interesting lecture for economy to learn. They are not disconnected. They are very, very much interconnected and interdependent with society, and interestingly, with the environment, because this is actually one of the reasons why we have this pandemic, is because we are coming too close to wildlife. We are restricting and destroying biodiversity and the space for wildlife. We are coming too close to wild animals, and this is how zoonotic viruses can spread to humanity. This is something that has come into the discussion recently, and I think that was not only interesting to see, but very valuable. And I really hope that we will have learnings from this in the future, or for the future. So, is the getting back to normal a good idea? I think normal has failed us, and it's not only me who's thinking this, but if you observe the conversation in social media and even in classic media, you can see that normal was for many not such a good idea, or at least over the time of this normal going on, it had flaws for environment, definitely, but also for several parts of society and in several geographic regions. The European Green Deal has been designed to mobilize at least 1 trillion for sustainable of sustainable investments. And the Green Recovery Plan that has come up now after during COVID crisis is hanging on to many of the topics tackled in the Green Deal. So the Green Deal is not going away, and the interesting part is, as Violetta mentioned, all of a sudden there is a lot of money around, state money. But whose money is state's money? It's actually ours. It's the people's money. It's tax money. So state fundings, our money should really be spent for the people, because this is where it is coming from. And if we spend it for the people on economy, because yes, economy, to keep the economy in good shape is important, but definitely it should be an economy for the people and not just for some. And you're definitely aware of the discussions on paying dividends, or even in countries like Denmark or in France, where state money is only given or paid to subsidize companies that, for example, do not have offshore accounts or are registered in the country and are taxpayers in the country, which I think is very valuable. And very responsible for states to do, and I wish all the states would act like this. And the European community is definitely trying to build some sort of a new growth, that is designed to give back more than it takes, which is coming into very much into what Christian has just elaborated on now. What we're just seeing now is that people, or a lot of people, think that, oh, we just need to overcome this COVID crisis, and then things will be all right and we can go back to normal again, which is not going the case. Because actually, yes, we will have to deal with the recession, and we will have the chance actually to rebuild an economy that we want to see, and an economy that is able or capable of being resistant or resilient or adaptive to the climate change that is waiting for all of us out there. We will face climate change phenomena. We're already facing it, and they will come. To what extent is still in our hands, and we still have some years left, not more than 10 for the first tipping points to reach. And after that, it will be, some of the things will be, or many of the things will be out of our hands. So it is very important, even if we take now urgent short-term measures, whether it's on an individual level or on an organizational business level, to keep the future, or the North Star, as Christian put it, in our minds, very, very present. It is utmost important to know that there are things out there waiting for us that we cannot sit out in our home offices. So for leadership, this is definitely a challenge, but this is nothing that they could not see come. We have known this for a long time, and we could have been or should be prepared by now. What this crisis to me really is, to put it in a picture, it's actually like moving. We've been living in a house that our parents and grandparents have built for us back in the 50s and 60s, after the Second World War. They rebuilt things. It was beautiful. We grew up in there. Society was different back then. The materials we used were different back then. And the world was very, very large, and we did not use as many resources back then. So things were different. This is why the house that we are living in today got a bit old-fashioned or even too small. So we built something else. We tried to move to the attic. It doesn't work any longer. This house does not work for us for a future, because it's not made for this future. It was made in the past. So if we move now, if we take this chance now to consider it that this is a move to the future, what would we bring to this future? And what do we need there? And what should we leave behind? Because we will not need it in this future. And for everyone who has moved already once or twice in their life, you know that every time you move, you're leaving stuff behind, even stuff that you may got fond of over a very long time, because it doesn't match or fit into your new environment any longer. And as the environment has changed so much due to our recent decades of behavior, we should really know what we need in this new future. And many challenges that we did overcome collectively in this crisis may have triggered learnings for us. And I would really like to know now and ask you to reflect on this for a few minutes. What worked well in this crisis, and what would you like to keep? Because I have a lot of conversations with colleagues in companies that I work with, and many of them say, oh, actually I like to spend more time with my family. Actually, I like to have a couple of days a week home office. Some of them even told me that they would like to have March and April off from now on, to slow down a bit, because the pace and speed of things is overwhelming for us humans sometimes. So I would really ask you to think what worked well, and what would you like to keep that you just learned now, or that was new to you. And let me open the chat. I'm not sure if you can see it if I share my screen, but I hope you all can see it at least. less hectic pace of life, less taken for granted, yes, and more gratefulness for friendships and family and food and health. Yes, all of a sudden, basic things became so much valued, and I really like to see this. Yes, continue working from home and traveling, less traveling, yes. I, for example, love to be able to reach out like in this webinar to you from actually my home office. This is a wonderful occasion for also for taking out the speed of everything. More time, more home working, home cooking. Community, yes, community responded brilliantly. A lot of people really could feel this, how important it is to be on the same side, to have good relationships, relationships that you can count on in times of crises. This is important. More freedom. Yeah, so I can see a couple of you really have already reflected on something that was important. So I really think that this crisis can be a learning for a lot of things that we will take with us into a new life, a new stage of our life. Because this has been unprecedented. We have never had this before in one or two generations. We have not experienced anything like this. The openness, the acceptance, unnecessary things. Yes, it's like when you're moving, you realize that some things are not necessary any longer to bring them with you into the next stage. And that next stage is really important to create. You need to know your future, and you can create it. So it's really something that we can build for us, for our children. It's like moving into a house for the next generations. And those next generations, let me see, for some reason my presentation does not, yes. So the thing that we need is, we need an economy that goes with people and the planet and works for people and the planet. We should see to bring economy along with us, and as economy is part of society, it's sourcing from society and it works with society, we should have the power actually, because it's not, as mentioned before, it's not operating in a vacuum. We are the system and we can create it differently. Because the question that companies really, or we all have to ask ourselves is, what does smart mean today? Like many other countries, Austria and I guess Slovenia or the Netherlands, everyone talks about smart, about the data and about technologies, smart mobility, smart living, smart economy. But smart actually doesn't just mean reusing technology, but we need to, as Violetta has elaborated on before, we need technology to serve humanity. So in that respect, what does smart for us mean? And for not only for us, but also for the generations to come, for our children and our grandchildren. All the resources that we have currently and that we are sourcing from, the environment, very important, society is a resource, especially in crises, because society is made by a fabric of relationships. We should handle and value those with care and foresight. And this is actually what economy originally meant. The ancient Greek word for oikos means house, and the nemo is manage. So economia really means household management. And our planet is our house. So currently, economy, using the term householding, is not what we are doing in a proper way. And this is, to some extent, has happened in the 17th century, because economy was made into wealth and resources of a country to that aspect. And the wealth and the resources of countries or of organizations, all of a sudden it was not so much about householding, which means we use what we have in a sensible way. It went into a narrative of wealth and resources. And when we talk about wealth and resources and capital, we always think about money. And we always think about materials, about assets, buildings, industries, and it's always money involved. And this economic mindset has triggered even individuals over the past decades of our being here in this post World War II world, into what's in for me. What Violetta has referred to, the ecosystem and egocentric system. We are still, a lot of people still, if you approach them with any idea or with any with an experiment, with an idea, with anything, a lot of them think, what's in for me? And this what's in very often, sadly, refers to money, to a monetary value. And very few, but a rising number, and I was so happy to see this with your presentations, is that many people that I can see around the globe have started to think about how can I contribute. And I think this crisis really triggered this in people. How can I contribute? Is there a purpose? What can I do to provide some value for, or a solution, or help or support for those who need it, and for those who would want to or who are out there and who are around me in my community or in my city, in my country. And this is not about philanthropy. This is smart to think this way. This is not just about doing good. This is also doing good for yourself. And a lot of people have realized this now. But still, when we talk about capital and materials and money, we think about the wealth in form of money and assets. We think about accounting. Money is invested in a business to generate income again. And we talk about economics in factors of production that are used to create goods or services and are not themselves in the process. So this is what we think about capital. But what we currently actually are doing is we are living off the capital. We are using the capital that we have. We are using currently 2.5 planets. And we radically need to change this, because we need to live from the income and not from the capital. Every asset manager, oops, I'm sorry, this has a life of its own. Don't know how to go back though. Okay, here we are again. This is really something that an asset manager would not instruct you on doing. Yes, please, let's use all your money. It's like behaving like you have inherited a fortune 2 generations ago, but by now we are the last generation who is able to turn around our ways of wasteful behavior and outrageous spending. We spend more than we have. And we're exploiting resources to zero, and we're not leaving anything behind for future generations. And politics needs to provide a framework for this, and at least international politics does this. So we need to maintain and even increase the stocks of these capital assets. And the most valuable capital that we have is this planet that we're living on. Because it provides us with everything that we need. And to achieve this, we need businesses, we need individuals to manage these capital assets sustainably and responsibly. Those capitals, this is a framework that has been drafted by Jonathan Porritt, a UK environmentalist actually. who wrote a very recommendable book in 2005 called Capitalism as if the World Matters. He referred to financial capital, which is not a real value at itself. It's a representative of natural and social or manufactured capital. He is referring to financial capital being a part of manufactured capital, fixed asset tools, but it is, as the model that we looked into before, it is surrounded and it's sourcing from social capitals, from the institutions, the families, the communities, the businesses, the trade unions, the schools that build a social fabric that we need as human beings and that we live from. And also human capital, people's health, the knowledge, the skills, the motivations are needed for productive work. And we can see this now when people are not healthy or when their health is at risk or threatened, they are no longer good employees or employees at all. And they are, of course, no good consumers. And as long as our linear economy is built on consumption, we need people to be healthy, obviously, because health is a major element in people's well-being. And all our well-being is dependent on life, on the basis of life itself, on the natural capital, on water, on air, on renewable and non-renewable resources. So if we start to think about these things in capitals, this is a capital that we need to regenerate and that we need to create an income from, but without destroying it because we want to keep it. This is something that really helps corporations, businesses to rethink the way they are doing business. And there are many around who have already started with this and who are already doing this. From Unilever to many others, they have started to allocate and to really scrutinize the capitals that they are using and how much are they giving back. And this has even, there is even a reporting framework for this, for organizations. It's called integrated reporting. I'm not going into this now. And it has been extended to 6 capitals because the intellectual capital was added as part of the social and human capital. But this is something where companies internationally, it provides them with some sort of a tool to be able to create value that is regenerative and that is contributing rather than just exploiting. And I think this is a very valuable concept, and it also matches very well the Sustainable Development Goals. There is also the concept of natural capitalism around. By Hawken and Lovins, which describes a global economy in which business and environmental interests overlap, and they recognize the interdependencies that exist between the production and use of human-made capitals and the flows of natural capital. So what we really need to see is an increase in productivity through radical changes to design, production, and technology, to make the resources to make them last longer than we currently have them. And in that respect, it very much builds into a circular economy as well. And natural capitalism actually is one of the school of thoughts where the concept of circular economy is coming from. And for those of you who are interested, look into it and you will see that from the shift to new production models that are inspired by nature and materials, what Christian explained beautifully with the model of the tree, to look into, to move to service and flow business models that provide value as a flow of services rather than the traditional production, produce, use, and waste model, and to actually reinvest into natural capital is paramount, because we need to restore and regenerate the natural resources that we use, because we need them to increase rather than to decrease, like what is happening actually right now. And there is a future that 193 states, or a future vision that 193 states have agreed to, all states actually, that can serve as a source of inspiration for that kind of future that we want to live in. This can be a shared future for businesses, for governments, for societies. And of course, the environment would certainly have a big part, and would be much more respected in this sort of a future that has been drafted and drawn up and agreed to by all the states in the world by 2030, that we should all make ourselves up and achieve those goals. What is really important for leaders, for visionary leaders, and even for individuals, is that we walk around in this future and really see how this feels, and look into what if quality education was accessible for all? What if we had a world of gender equality? What if we had a world without inequalities? And we all are aware of the racial inequalities that are happening currently. What if we could all live in peace, and all the money that we are currently allocating into weapons could be allocated to something else, to something that is actually rebuilding instead of destructing or destroying. This is kind of what Christian called the North Star, the way to go. Yes, of course, each of us can have a way to go, but this is an approach. This is a future vision that has been drafted in a 3 years process. Multi-stakeholder from all parts of the globe have contributed, and for everyone who looks into this, you will see that this is a beautiful future that actually has something good for everyone, or a lot of good actually for everyone. We definitely will see that there is a lot of innovation potential for people and businesses around the world for this new way of sustainable living that we will also need in an eco-civilization, and that people really are waking up to see as a big value and something to look forward to. We need to turn this vision into action. If we vision the future and have strategic dialogues and conversations on it, it is very important to go beyond those short-term planning horizons that are around as business tools. We need to imagine this future in a different way, because it's very important that we do not bring today's thinking into that future, because it won't work there. Again, it's like moving. So also leave this kind of thinking, this old thinking, leave this by where it is. It has served us long enough. It's time to let go and spend some time in this future and walk around to see what it looks like, and what foresight will bring into this, and then walk your way back and say, what do we need to do to create this kind of a future that we want to see happen for us and for our children and grandchildren. And this also helps companies to take the right choices now for a future, and to go beyond their current core business, to come through, to break through innovation, have different financial aspirations, and see where to play and how to win all along this way. This needs foresight, as I said, and really purpose. And the purpose, why are we around, not only as individuals, but on all levels as organizations, but we are bringing this purpose into organizations. So organizations are also asked to rethink their purpose. What will the future look like? Where are we going? Why are we here? And what purpose do we serve? This is what makes a real game changer, and how this can happen. Tools for this are already around, and Yuri has mentioned it before. Scenario planning, strategic scenario planning is very important, because there is not one future, because there are several sustainable futures depending on where you live, and what the conditions around you are, and what decisions are taken, possibly by politics or by other stakeholders that are involved. It's a very powerful tool. And it helps you to overcome, or it helps even individuals to overcome short-sightedness, because we can plan, but if the environment, the surrounding changes quickly, which it does, or if the conditions are uncertain like they are currently, a plan, a step-by-step plan forward may not make much sense, or will only be feasible for a very short term. We need to learn to adapt and transform more quickly, and really to get into a long-term planning or visioning. This is important. We need to keep creativity and culture as a very, very big value that we have. We need to foster this, and we need to be aware that artificial intelligence and other robotics, other technologies cannot replace culture and creativity. They are rather extensions of our minds and of what we can imagine. So I believe that we should make them work for us, and not, or even maybe instead of us, but we should keep we should be the brain behind this, and we should keep this, and just have an extended brain that will support us with technology. But creativity really is a great human, is really a great human capacity, and that needs to be fostered. And the positive thinking and out of the box thinking will also bring us to breakthrough innovations that are much needed for this future. So this was it from me. Let's start with this now. Be bold, make it happen, and let's go for it. I'm ready.
Great, thank you so much, Karin. Indeed, I've got two short questions for you. Is there anybody who would like to precede me, please, ladies and gentlemen? Now it's time for questions. I have a very practical question for all of us. On one of your slides, you said we have to encourage the investment into the natural capital. How can we do that? Can we just imagine, I mean, how can we close this loop? What incentives are missing there, or how can we increase them to get to that? One regulation that I really like is that you tax much more, let's say, the greenfield, the literal greenfield investment, as opposed to an investment into a construction on a site where the building is being replaced or simply refurbished or put in a new use. I see this as a key component, because then we can really redevelop our economies as regenerative systems. So any ideas on this?
From my side?
Please.
Okay. Well, maybe someone in the audience has an idea and would like to add up on this. I have just right now spoken a lot.
Of course. And it also
happy to enter the discussion with everyone. But just to follow up on this, there are certainly ideas around on how how to promote and how to strengthen sustainable investment, and even the EU sustainable investment, sustainable finance plan and the taxonomy will help to speed this up. And we will need frameworks and tools, because not everyone will recognize this as an opportunity. So we will need to have a push. We will have those who will move forward because they have the foresight already, and because they can see that fossil fuels is probably only a short-term investment any longer, but we will still have those individuals or organizations around that are going for short-term value and not only for long-term.
Right. You know,
well, I have Yuri.
Please,
allow me just one quick comment, because I think what Karen started, I would just like to push it further. I've seen it firsthand, what it means when there is a political decision. So first of all, start voting for enlightened politicians who know how to lead and who are interested in making the world better. Stop voting for those that are destroying the societies.
Yeah. And
it has to be a political will. I remember so clearly how this made a tremendous change during our mandate, when we had to decide for pollution zero or neutral, climate change neutral EU by 2050. I mean, this was not a trivial decision. Today, we just take it as a statement for granted. But it was a lot of little turning points where we all had to stand up for this in college meetings, in our open discussions, and be very strong in showing the path that leads there and showing that it's possible. So, and I'm really a bit tired of excuses why not, because there is at least zillions of those why we can. Yeah, so I think we need to start speaking up. I mean, don't take no for an answer, and invite, not be aggressive, but constantly invite those decision makers from banks, from investment side, to the companies, to personal choices. Today we had a lovely examples how we can walk the path with 5 Ps. And Karen, you showed how many changes have already happened, really, and how many paths have been already cleared. You show so many really powerful models in your presentation. So let's just not be afraid.
No, and if I may add,
walk the path. That's
it. Fully agree. Fully agree.
Compromises for an answer.
Yeah.
Christian, please. Thank you.
No, I like I think from organizations and companies, you also see that, for example, measuring differently. They have an environmental and a societal P&L. So we could speed up and say, okay, this will be the standard, instead of keep on talking on this, how to account. Everybody understands the P&L, but apparently that takes a lot of time. Through pricing, same. Let's go for it. Make also people aware about it. So there are a lot of elements, small micro elements, but also political elements. It has to come from different sides, also from the education side, get people awareness, educate, inspired. But let's do it.
And what I would like to add also on a personal level, and I think it's great that you brought the role of politics in, Violetta, and Christian, now the organizations, also the individuals, each of us, with the money we pay every day, every product that we purchase, we say yes to unsustainable, destroying, deploying practices in business or even politics. In politics, with the people we vote, but and with the money that we spend, we're saying yes to destruction, or we're saying no. It really is up to each and everyone. And what I'm really sort of tired of, and I may mention this because Violeta said what she's tired of, I'm tired of everyone's pinpointing to the other party and saying, oh, politics has to start. Oh no, it's businesses that have to start. Oh no, it's the consumers that have to start. And I really, this is up to here, because it's really not on one group, it's on all of us. And when I think about what Violeta said about the eco-civilization set, this is a global mindset. And this is why it is also so important for us to know this is not only happening in Slovenia, it's not only happening in Austria, it's not only happening in the Netherlands or in Europe, it's happening everywhere. I have met people from all over the world with the same mindset, and there is so much happening. It's just that we're not seeing this because the media has a different logic, and the media is arousing negative feelings and spiraling negative feelings, because this is something that they have learned, that this is where the attention goes. And so what we see, all this screaming and all the arousing, the anger that is around, it is around, but there is also a lot of kindness around, a lot of happiness, a lot of collective action. It's also the role of the media that prevents us from seeing this. So we really need to keep our ears and eyes and our hearts open to experience it, because this is the only way to go. And we can experience it. I experience it every day because I have this great job and wonderful colleagues and wonderful experiences like this one now. And this is really what makes me going.
Excellent. I think bringing in the media into the eco-civilization journey would be an interesting next topic. I actually see many good examples here, but they should prevail more than at least we perceive them today. Anyhow, coming from your presentation, I perceived several times the strong messages that you sensed from the recent COVID experience, the lockdown, I mean, and the global effect of such a tremendous pandemic that we are still actually going through as the global society. In this situation, strangely enough, we are going into inevitable economic recession, and some countries will be particularly hardly hit, much more than in the last global recession that started in 2008. Still, we see that in many ways, people are less preoccupied with the recession itself than with the respect of human, in very many ways, in very, very many ways. We even see that this detachment of the global stock markets from the people and what they feel, what they risk, what they suffer. So I think there will be many more lessons, and I think we have to put our ears there and really understand what is going on, because this is a tremendous accelerator of this social change. So I think that really never before so many things have been so connected, and this afternoon that we spent together really helped us put many things on the table. First of all, Violeta laid ground for it. She made this wonderful landscape where so much can grow and can be further fertilized by our actions. Then Christian helped us understand our role in the whole picture through several layers of peace. We started with 5 P's. We are now all convinced that there are many more P's. So we can really contribute in so many ways to such a transition. And then taking it from the premise that ownership is actually stewardship, and it's a responsibility to bring an asset in a better shape to the next generation. And as Christian said, not just an asset, it's actually to leave the planet in a better shape for next generations. We went into the 5 capitals that Karin used as a drawing board, and brought us into the concepts and actually even concrete tools that give us hope and can certainly be further developed, just like ideas how we can invest better into the natural capital, how we can foster the closing, narrowing and slowing loops, so that we can really regenerate our natural environment and build a more balanced society, or even a civilization around that. I thank you so much to all of you, and I would like to thank to all the participants, to all those who have been with us and may not have had planned so much time for the debate. It's really a challenge to, it's not a problem, at least not for me, staying with you for so much time, because I simply lose track of time. It's so compelling, but I understand it's really a challenge to frame this within our schedules. So thank you all for your endurance and your interest. The next time we are going to actually go even broader into this, into the politics and geopolitics of the eco-civilization. Carlo Giardinetti, a Swiss professor, will be with us. He claims that we are many, and it's 20% of those who can already provide for the 80% of the change. And so we will start from this Pareto rule with Carlo Giardinetti, and we will be happy to seeing you all back with us. It's in a week time. Please don't forget about your homework. We will read all this with passion, and we will help you publish your contributions. And in the next weeks, we will try to spread your voice through social media and in other ways, because we would really like this conversation to continue. And this is just the first set of sessions that we are going through. We are talking about, with Violeta, with Christian, with Karin, about how we could go further and how to continue encouraging and sharing knowledge, sharing experience, sharing motivation and inspiration for the change towards a new paradigm that we term the eco-civilization. Thank you again. It's actually a nice, fresh, chilly late afternoon in Ljubljana. I hope you also have a nice, couple of hours before dark, wherever you are. Karin, I think, is with us from Vienna. Christian from Amersfoort, maybe. And Violeta and we are sitting in Ljubljana, and there were people with us from India, from Japan, from several other places, at least for some of those who I can recognize, from Greece and so forth. And I will just conclude with, there's a sentence that Yatin Kataria wrote. He said, "I changed my Zoom name from Yatin Kataria India to Yatin Kataria Global Citizen today. This is my immediate action." Thank you again, and have a nice rest of the evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Oh, Karen, you wanted to.
I wanted to ask you something. I have, as you have been commissioner previously, what is the best way to address